What's going on, guys? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs, and today I'm going to show you how to make illustrations like these without the skill to draw.
Dreadlabs.
So what I mean by this is that this drawing is done in Procreate, but it's based on a 3D composition that I made in Cinema 4D. So I'll bring up Cinema 4D right now. As you can see, this is just a 3D composition, and I'll turn off my camera here so you can so I can show you what this is about. So this is a skull that I got from the internet and some brains that I got from the internet, and I intersected them here, as well as some corrugated pipes and some cables on the back. And then I just put a camera on it like so. I rendered this out, and basically what I did was I traced over it in Procreate. So basically what you can do is you can go in and grab your 3D render, and before you do anything with it, if you think it's kind of hard to go over these lines with the shadows, I suggest you put in some more contrast with curves or level adjustment layers basically. And then yeah, I just brought it into Procreate, but you can do this in Illustrator or Photoshop or any drawing program that you find easy. You can also just print it out and trace it on another paper. And in my situation, I just chose to use Procreate because it's easy for me. So yeah, what I try to do with this style is go over the shading a bit more and maybe do some accents with some smaller, thinner lines around the highlights to fake that there are actually highlights there with like some fake shadow lines. And I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory, and if you want me to do some more in-depth video on how to actually like trace drawings like these, let me know in the comments. So now let's bring this into Photoshop and try to make cover artwork out of it. Alright, so we're back in Photoshop, and as you can see, here's our initial 3D render with the opacity lower down and the illustration on top of it. So what I want to do right now is delete this part and merge this into a smart object, and we'll call this skull. And what I wanted to do is I want to do a really simple duotone with a font in the background here. So let's just see where we can go from here. So the cover artwork that I want to redesign today is Tim Tama's Design for the Mind. I made this 3D render with that track on the background in mind, and I think it's just a really cool, super dark, hard-hitting techno track. So I highly suggest you check it out. It's also in our playlist on Spotify. So let's see if we can get a cool font that will actually fit through the whole background here. So maybe a bit more of a fat font basically. Helvetica is a bit too obvious maybe. What if we went for this one? Because it's kind of blocky and I like that. Alright, so let's just resize this so there's an equal amount of space on top and in the bottom here. So something like this. And you can check this by creating a selection rectangle. And as you can see, it's 28 pixels by 28 pixels, and it's also directly on the edge on the top and on the left side of this text, which is a great thing. So we're gonna do the same here, and we'll grab the edge here and make a 28 by 28 square. And now we can easily just put two guides here so we know what the vertical space between the fonts should be like, because I want to duplicate this down like so. And then if we drag this down again, right, so can do the same thing here again. Go to the edge here and put some guides in here. let's just make sure that this one, we should put this one down, I think. So also here, because the squares moved up 1 pixel. And duplicate it again. And let's see if we can do the same thing, but now with the 3 of them. So make a 28 by 28 square again. Make a guide for yourself. Now selecting all of them and holding Alt or Option, dragging them down. And this will speed it up pretty much to the point where you got a full cover, where you cover the full grounds of this artwork. Just make sure that your square is actually starting on the edge, because as you can see here, it's not starting on the edge. There we go again. Alright, I think we just need one more, and then we're going to try to morph it back in so it fits in the cover basically. So grab our guide, select the top one here, and copy it. And now what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's also a guide here with 28 by 28 pixels, and put one guide here. Alright, so what I want to do right now is I'm gonna resize all of these, so I'm gonna remove the middle guides here, so leaving only the top and the bottom guide. So like this. Alright, and as you can see, our group of fonts here, just call it Design for the Mind. We kind of have to transform it so it will fit a bit better, and while holding Shift we can do so. And now we have a proper square of fonts in here. So one thing that I like to do, because there's like a gap between these, is maybe rotating them around. So for example, let's just remove the skull for now, and then we're grabbing the second one. And we'll mirror it like this. So the way I did this was I'm gonna hold Command or Control to select this one with the direct select, hitting Ctrl T on my keyboard. Make sure the uniform scaling here is unchecked, so this box needs to be unchecked, and then the width will make -100, and that will mirror it, because it will scale. What it essentially does is it will scale this like so. You just need to make sure that it's actually 100%. And let's do this for the rest. Alright, so the gap here is kind of gone, but it's still not gone in here. So what I might do is I'm just going to remove the spaces in between as a whole, and then I'm going to resize it again. And this is still kind of confusing because the text in the mirror, you have to use the controls as a mirror as well. So going left means going right, and going right means going left. So I probably should have done this before the mirroring. But still, this is okay because it shows a process, and sometimes because you're still like exploring, like I do right now, like I didn't have a plan to fix this before I started this video. I'm just like improvising. So it's good to see that process, I think, because if I would show you like this perfect video, it wouldn't be real. Like that won't be happening in real life, I guess. So I still miss a space in here, and I think that's all of them, right? So now I want to select every other font here. So I can hold shift and I don't have to hold shift with resizing this text. It's a bit weird with Photoshop lately. Anyway, and I'm gonna do the same with the other ones. I think these are the mirrored ones. Yeah. Alright, so now it's kind of like super cryptic, and it's just became a pattern instead of a track title. But if you look closer, you can actually see that there's a track title there. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of see if we can distort this. So I want to make a smart object out of these and go to Edit, Transform, Warp. And let's see if we can do something like this maybe. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Ooh, I think we should do this. And then maybe like kind of like a radial blur. And then we'll have the radial blur making it zoom out a bit, like maybe 20 something. Alright, so this is kind of cool, but it's obstructing the view. So what I want to do is I am going to duplicate it and delete the smart filter of the bottom one, and see if we can do something about this. Maybe lower the opacity. Nah, I think that won't work. I think this is enough because it's already kind of distorting the view. So okay, let's see if we can do something cool with this. So I think we should recolor this bottom layers here, these bottom layers here, with something industrial. I recently been really inspired by the covers made by Motel. He also has a YouTube channel which I will link below, because he has some really cool time-lapse videos, and his artworks are always super on point. So let's see what we can do here. Something like this maybe. But I do want this in between the skull. I want it to be filled in, I think. I also want to reorganize it a bit, resize it just a little bit so it's so it takes a bit more of the space, because I feel like it's leaning a bit towards the left. Turn on uniform scaling here. So yeah, I'm just making this left part a bit more filled in, I guess. I should have actually kept this in mind while doing the 3D composition, but yeah, there's no worries in this. Like I said, this is all improvising. Right, so now I want to delete this, and with the polygonal lasso selection tool, I want to create a fill for in between the illustration. So this is gonna take a while, so I'll just speed this up for you. Alright, so with this selection, I'm gonna just grab a solid color. We'll make it this beige for now, I think. So yeah, as you can see, now the whole illustration is a bit more visible because there's not only outlines anymore, and I do want to recolor this, I think, to the background color. Let's see what happens if we do that. And if we recolor this to this could be kind of interesting. And yeah, I pretty much like the duotone here, like the two colors only. So what I want to do is I want to group this like artwork, and I'm turning this into a smart object again. And by doing this, I'm going to go to filter, distort displace, and we're going to experiment with displacement maps for a while. And I really like how this looks, but I do want to turn it down just a little bit and then increase the height as well, like 220 or something. And now I want to make sure that it's properly centered, and that's gonna be just a little bit hard, I think. Okay, so just want to make sure that this edge is still here in the corner as well as this one, and then I'm just gonna go and grab a background with the same color to mimic that there's still a proper background here, like because as you can see, if I remove this, you can kind of see some transparent edges in here, and especially here on the edge. So what I want to do is I just want to recreate this color, and now it looks like it's still one background. So yeah. Now I think it's time for texturing. So let's just drop some textures on this. I kind of like how this soft light effect is doing, because it takes a bit of the dark and it takes a bit of the lighter areas. And then I want to damage it a bit more with some grunge, I think. So a bit of noise over this, and then no, I'm not a fan of this actually. So let's see if we can make a custom noise or grunge texture with this. So I want to increase the contrast of this with a gradient map. And it's some really weird edges here, as you can see. So if we group this and put it to lighten, it could work. What I want to do is I want to do it like this, and then duplicate this and rotate it a bit around so we can have some more, have a better spread of the textures here. But now that I can see these ones aren't overlapping, so what I want to do is do it like this, and then group these individually, and then turn these to lighten, which will increase it dramatically. And then this can be just passed through, and we'll call this textures. So what I did here is I have a group of 2 groups, and in these 2 groups are these images, which are put to lighten. And this one has to be put to normal, as well as this one's already at normal. So what happens is it makes the image black and white with the gradient map, and then the lighten mode will only make these white damaged parts visible. So I'm just gonna resize this properly so it's all over the place. I think a bit more like so. And then I'm gonna do the same for this one. Let's just make it a normal blend mode for now. And just scale it up a bit like this. And if we lighten this one, we can actually see, okay, this is the actual texture that's coming on right now. So if we lighten this one as well, this is what we are being left with. And now that I see it, I don't really like these straight edges right through the artwork. So what I want to do is I want to check if I can transform these in a way so that the edges are on the edges, if that makes sense. So for example, let's just move this one around like so. Scale it up like this, so it's covering the whole artwork. Zoom in just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Should be fine. And now for the second one, also the textures that I'm using here are also found on Texture Fabric, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, as you can see now, maybe like the texture is kind of mirroring, so this edge is also, this fleck like thing is also here. So what I want to do to randomize it a bit better is maybe rasterize this one, grab my clone stamp tool, and just replace some contents everywhere. So for example, this one here, and I want to cover this one up, and doing the same for this one. So in this way we can make it a bit more randomized, I guess. And this is just to make sure that nothing's like actually mirroring, because otherwise there will be like this mirror in between and you could see like this edge is there, etc. And then we can move this one a bit more towards here. And then we're going to put both of them to lighten again. And there we have it. And I feel like we can also add some paper texture or something to make this a bit more, like make the texture feel a bit more bumpy, if that makes sense. Yeah, as you can see, there's a bit more gritty texturing in here. And now I do want to lower the contrast, or up the contrast by making the dark parts a bit darker, like this. All right. So now the only thing that's missing is the actual title of the artist, which is Tim Tama. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, by the way. Anyway, I want to show you this cool bevel emboss effect, which looks 3D, but it's still only in one color. So let's just do that right now. And let me see. Okay, so what you want to do is you go to bevel and emboss and create a bevel and emboss effect, like in whatever way you like it. So for example, just make the color overlay gray so we can see what we're doing here. And the depth needs to be quite high for this to look a bit better, in my opinion, but I encourage you to experiment with this. So I don't want like there to be an actual top, so if we up this high enough, there's only like two sides here. So this should be good for now, I think. So if we convert this into a smart object, or wait, so what I want to do is I want to group this and then turn this into a smart object and put a threshold up on this like so, and add a noise filter to the smart object like this, but way less than this, like maybe 5%. And yeah, now we have this text, and what you want to do is you want to turn it to either lighten or multiply, whichever one you like. So you can do this by going so basically you have to decide for yourself if you want to keep the black parts or the white parts in here, and I want to go and keep the black parts in here, so I want to remove the white here by dragging the slider in. Okay guys, my Photoshop just crashed, so I really hope that I keeps please recover this file. Okay, so we only lost the what you call it, we only lost the text file, which is not too bad, but I want to save this quickly as possible. Ooh. Okay, so these are the settings. You can pause the screen and copy it for now. Anyway, I want to go and group this, or I want to convert this into a smart object, add a threshold filter to it like this, and then add a noise filter to the smart object again. Maybe lower it to like 2 or something. Let me just check. I do want to have a color overlay on this, which is gray. So there's like white, black, and gray in this image. And the result of that is that there will be a bit more noise in there. So if I up this like so, I can group this one again and remove the white like so. Alright, so now we have the title. artist name. Alright, so the only thing that's left now is some displacement and some recoloring so it fits with the actual color in here. But I want to see if I can perspective warp this in a way that it looks like it's printed on the skull basically, and that will be kind of hard. So, and my Photoshop's lagging again, so guys, I'm sorry, I'll cut back to the video once it stopped lagging. Alright, so we're back, and I figured I'll try to warp this instead of perspective warping because my Photoshop lagged like crazy. So I'm so sorry guys, my Photoshop is just refusing to do this 3D part. So for now, what I want to do is I want to check if we can make a render of this 3D text around the skull here. So I'm going to save this up for now. And I'm going to dive into Cinema 4D again. Alright, so we're back in Cinema 4D, and what I want to do is I want to grab a mode text, and I'm going to align it to the middle immediately, and type Tim Tama. And grab our font that we needed, and reduce the height just a little bit. Also, the depth should be a bit lower. I think like 8 centimeters should be fine. And I don't want to add a cap for this because it's already kind of 3D. So what I want to do here is I want to add a bend object, and by holding shift you can make this a child of the thing again. So if we bend it, we're bending in this axis, but I want to rotate the bend 90 degrees. And I think this, okay, so I think that their bend is acting a bit weird. Because this is a mode text, so let's see if we can make this just a editable object. And see if this works. I think this works a bit better. See if this is the correct, yeah, okay, this is the correct way I wanted this to be. So I wanted this to be minus 45 degrees then, and then rotating it around like this, and let's see how it looks from the top. Okay, I want to extend this a bit more. Okay, let's just do it a bit differently. So if we just scale this to the appropriate height and width, move it up just a little bit like this. Okay, this should be fine, and now we should be able to bend it properly. So if we do this 90 degrees, for example, yeah, okay. So now when I have this in front of the skull, so let me move this around a bit. Maybe scale it down as a whole just a little bit like this. And now let's just do the position first, and then the rotation will follow. And the text should be completely readable. So the text is completely not completely readable in this position. So I'm gonna rotate it a bit to the side of the skull, like so. And as you might have probably already have seen from this, I am still kind of new to Cinema 4D. I've only started working with it about a year ago, I think, a bit shorter. I think about 11 months ago. So yeah, this is still a bit new to me. Anyway, if we apply this material and then remove all of the other parts from the render, we should be able to render a transparent 3D text part. So make sure that it won't override the save of our skull composition. All right. So let's just bring this back into Photoshop. And I think if we could move it just a little bit to the left here, like this. And now we obviously need to make this a duotone. So what I want to do is I want to add a threshold. And let's see. What if we blur this a bit with a threshold? How would that look? And then a noise maybe. No, I don't really like this too much. Right, so if we group this and then add a I'm going to dive into this one and bring in that same gradient map. And clip it to our title here. And maybe inverse it a bit. And now we should be able to edit the threshold so that the text is completely readable, but maybe we just remove the Gaussian blur and maybe add a small stroke around it so we can actually see the contours of this, and then maybe displace it a bit so it won't look as staged as it should. Oh, we can maybe also do this with a drop shadow. Like this. All right, so by adding a inner shadow to this, you can also kind of highlight the lighter points in this text, like so. And I think I'm gonna drop the noise for now because there's already enough texturing in here. And the inner shadow is already giving some noise off, so I'm gonna just light this up so the top text will be lit up like so. And I think this should be it. So what I still want to do is I want to group all of this, call it Tim Tama, convert it to a smart object, and do the same distortion displace effect that we did earlier. This should be good. All right, just gonna duplicate this one, giving it a color overlay. like this, and now blur the hell out of it. Like this. And then make sure that displacement is on top of the Gaussian blur. Like this. And now maybe lower the opacity a bit. And now, because this is kind of like fading, what I like to do in the end is grab the foreground and the background color here, like these ones, then grab a so without the textures, just want to make sure that I have the correct foreground and background color, these ones. And now I want to grab a threshold to make sure that all of the edges will be like kind of harsh, and then a gradient map with the same colors as the normal one. And then we can add these textures on, make sure that the textures and the contrast is on top of here, and make it a bit lighter with our contrast because it's kind of getting distorted by the threshold and gradient map again. So maybe we should add this here. I will delete a lot of the texture. Anyway, let's just play with the threshold for one last time. Like this. So yeah, here we have it. Our distorted illustration made without any like illustration skills besides tracing. I know you should probably be able to do this skull and composition in with a threshold filter pretty well, but with tracing over it and doing the illustration yourself, you kind of get yourself into illustrating, as well as you can get a bit more of details in, because these lines you can really see in the 3D composition. I just made them in the illustration. So yeah, anyway. So yeah, the project file will again be available on Patreon, and if you have any suggestions for videos, please join us on Discord, let me know in the comments below, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. Bye.